This is a Nice Guys Patreon exclusive.
It's another Ice Guys Patreon exclusive, Ian Cameron, and today we are joined by pro hockey player Brady Fleurent. You can follow him on Twitter as well, bfleurent94. Most recently played with the Adirondack Thunder in the East Coast Hockey League, planning to be back with them for the 2023-2024 hockey season. Brady, thanks for joining us here on the Ice Guys. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, no doubt. As always, with our first-time guests, we talk about you a little bit. This is your chance to gush a little bit about the hockey life, the hockey journey, how you've gotten to this point. You're, of course, from Maine in the United States, only not even 30 years old yet, man. What I'd do to get the age that you're at again back, I'll never have it back. I'm going to be 40 in a couple of years. It's a scary thought. But you're still a young guy. You've obviously been playing pro, I think, for about 3 or 4 seasons now. You played college ranks as well, University of New England. So tell us the Brady Fleurent hockey journey to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much has stayed local in Maine my entire life. Grew up playing in Biddeford and then played high school here in Maine for 2 years, and then I made the jump to juniors, which is the Portland Junior Pirates in Portland here. And I got to stay at my high school and got to play in my hometown, which was the next town over. So I played in the EHL and the USPHL there, and I was looking up kind of some places for college. And my older brother was already at University of New England, which is in my hometown, and we had played every level together growing up, and we kind of had like the Sedines connection. So yeah, I ended up going to University of New England with my brother and got to play college in my hometown. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty cool experience, no doubt. And then, of course, transition to pro, East Coast Hockey League. Man, look at all these teams I'm seeing here. Atlanta Gladiators,
Yeah.
Knoxville Ice Bears, South Carolina Stingrays, Wheeling Nailers, Norfolk Admirals, Knoxville Ice Bears again, Wichita Thunder, Rapid City Rush. Oh, look, Knoxville Ice Bears again.
Yeah.
And then Adirondack Thunder most recently. But they must love you in Knoxville, Tennessee. Holy fuck, man. 3 different experiences with them.
Yeah. So, once after college.
They love them some Brady Fleurent, clearly.
Yeah. It was so I never left Maine until I saw after my senior year in college. Once I got finished, I signed in with the Atlanta Gladiators in the coast. And I went there for, I think, for a month, like 7-8 games there to end the season there. And it was awesome. I enjoyed my time there. And then I re-signed for the following year. And some things, I went to camp there. Some things didn't go as planned. So I kind of had to make a decision. And that's when I decided on Knoxville my rookie year. And then my rookie year, I just kind of had a lot of travel miles. I was taking pretty much trying to get any call up possible. And like you said, all those teams I was in, South Carolina, Wheeling, Norfolk, I was kind of playing the role guy to fill in for a month or two at a time. So I got a lot of travel miles in my suitcase back for my first year, 100%. And then that's when COVID hit. So, right, I was in Norfolk when COVID hit, and then the fall they canceled the rest of the season. And I went back to Knoxville the following season because only, I think it was like 10 ECHL teams and like 5 SPHL teams. Only like the southern states pretty much played that year for the COVID year. So I had the opportunity. Thankfully, it was my Knoxville coach from the year before, and he offered me to come play during the COVID year. And I absolutely loved Knoxville. So at that point, I wanted to play anywhere. So I took advantage and went there. And I mean, the SPHL that year is pretty much a lot of my captains are all in the AHL and ECHL now. So it was pretty much the ECHL that year. So, and that's when I really fell in love with Knoxville, was that year. I was there full year, got to enjoy it, and just loved the scenery and everything. So then the following year, I signed with Wichita, and it just wasn't working out. Wasn't that I'd like to be closer to home, and I was in Kansas, kind of pretty far away, and I just don't think I was my happiest. And Yeah, I know.
I'll say that because I'm looking at the numbers here. Man, you had some
Yeah,
nice seasons in Knoxville. I see a
yeah,
fucking goose egg in goals for you in
yeah.
Wichita. So clearly things weren't jiving there.
Yeah, things just weren't going well. Didn't get the opportunity I was hoping for, and
Yeah.
so I just thought maybe it's better to be happy in somewhere you wanted to be, and I knew Knoxville was like a second home to me, so I went halfway through the season. I decided to go back to Knoxville, and it was honestly the best decision I've ever made. It was awesome. I went back and started to enjoy hockey again, and had some good numbers and all that, and yeah, finished the year there last year. We had a deep play. We had a great year, and then sadly playoffs we kind of choked a bit. Some injuries happened, but and then this year I went back to Knoxville to start because I and
I
then
appreciate the brutal honesty, man. We
yeah,
choked a bit. Oh my God.
yeah
Usually that's safe for me when I'm ripping other teams. Yeah,
we
we're
ended
using
up
that
we
word.
had the best season like the league history, and then we had three of our top six get hurt our last weekend, so we went in playing six forwards for our first round. So it wasn't meant to be, I guess. We faced a tough Roanoke team, and they went pretty far. But and then yeah, I went back to Knoxville to start this year, kind of have some leadership and everything. And there's a new coach there, Brent Clark, that I had as an assistant coach in the COVID year, and he played me a bunch, and I was doing really well, had a great start, and I went to Adirondack around Christmas, and honestly never looked back.
Yeah, how was that Adirondack experience? Because you ended up having a successful season as a team. You know, numbers wise, you played pretty well there, and into the playoffs. Obviously, you got, I believe, what, first round or second round? It was second round.
Yeah, we faced Newfoundland first round, and
Oh,
we
first
lost
round.
to them. But honestly, it was awesome in Adirondack. I loved it. First year coach Peter MacArthur, he was awesome. He was great to me. I think we kind of really gelled as a team. Apparently they had a rough start before I had gotten there, and then I think things just gelled right around the time I got there, and we went on a really good run December on, and we clinched playoffs on the last day of the season, and we made this remarkable run, and it was just I enjoyed being there. It was awesome, and hoping we can just build on that for next year.
Exactly. You got a little taste of it this year, first round. Obviously, it's the same thing in any league, whether it's NHL, AHL, ECHL, or a league in Europe. And when you get into the first round, one year you get knocked out. Obviously, you want to take a next step next year, get a little bit further, second round and beyond, see if you can get there. I got asked too, because I think you said earlier when you were talking about a few of the places you've been that you're a scenery guy. You like, places
Yeah.
that are good, beautiful, nice place you can hike and probably do all that shit, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I got to ask you, you got a chance because of who you played in the first round to go out to Newfoundland. Now, I've only been there once. It was 20 years ago, and I'm sure it's changed a lot. I was only a teenager back then. You talk about scenery, man.
Yeah.
Holy crap. I mean, the scenery in Newfoundland is just
Yeah.
incredible. And wonderful fish, seafood places there too,
Yeah.
obviously. Known for great
Newfoundland.
fish, and yeah, just the scenery there, right, especially St.
Yeah.
John's, right on the rock. The Atlantic Ocean's right
Yeah.
there, just unbelievable. I'm sure you enjoyed just being there for that playoff series.
Yeah. Honestly, Newfoundland, I had never really known anything about Newfoundland. It's awesome. The scenery is sweet. I mean, I played there 3 times there this year, twice in regular season and then in playoffs. So you're there for the week because of the travel. So you get some off time, and it was really cool to see the scenery. We took a team hike on the rock. I think it's one of the highest points. I forget what it was called, but it was so cool just seeing the ocean and all the restaurants, all the water, like you said, like the bar life, like the George Street down the strip. Yeah, it's really cool. I really enjoyed being there. That's why I think traveling. That's why it's so awesome playing. Is that when you're on the road, you get to see all these different places and different scenery. That for most of my life I was in Maine, and now I kind of get to see different parts of the world. Is pretty sweet.
It's funny that there's a bit of an inferiority complex. I'll be real with the people in Newfoundland. They always feel like, we're the brunt of all jokes. We're called Newfies. We get fucking ignored. Our time zone is all fucked up. We're an hour and a half ahead of the Eastern time zone. Why
Yeah.
aren't we an hour ahead or 2 hours ahead? Why do we have to be an hour and a half ahead, 90 minutes? I mean, there's that sort of like we're being ignored. We get laughed at and all that shit. Well, that stuff comes to an end for people that are out of town and they visit. because that quickly comes to an end because they see, wow, what a beautiful place this is. You're right. That George Street downtown core, for a smaller city, smaller province, it's a pretty nice little entertainment area for a Saturday night or a Friday night. I enjoyed it there. Like I said, I've only been there the one time 20 years ago, but I was blown away by how wonderful it was, Newfoundland.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. They get some pretty good crowds too. It was always fun playing in Newfoundland on a Friday, Saturday night, whatever night it was. They had a good crowd, great atmosphere. So I always loved going to Newfoundland. It was a cool spot to be. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, and certainly love their hockey there as well. And it's good they have a pro team there again, because there was a time they wondered if they'd have one. Obviously, they had the AHL affiliate of the Toronto Maple Leafs for a very long time, the St. John's Maple Leafs. And then they had, I believe, an affiliate with Montreal, and then they had junior hockey just for a little bit as well. But now they've got the ECHL team there, the Growlers, which is good to see that they have. They should always have some kind of pro hockey team in that market, in that city. And it's good to see they have it once again. So they were the team for all the good things you've said, Brady, about Newfoundland. They are the team that knocked you out. So that's the only negative you got to say about them. But great stuff. And hopefully you get that contract signed with Adirondack next year. And you end up being back with the Thunder. We did find a highlight for our guest here, Brady Fleurent, here from the highlight reel, if you will. This is actually from, I believe, this past season with the Knoxville Ice Bears. You were with them at the beginning of the season before getting to Adirondack. And this is actually an assist. It's not a goal. It's an assist. But, man, it is an unbelievable pretty assist right here. We'll see if we can cue it up. Here we go. All right, let me just get the full screen. Here we go. Play button. Here we go.
Back by Conger. Florent up ahead. And now in space. Here's Balsamo. Balsamo left circle shot. He scores! Dino with the stretch pass from Brady Fleurent. Knoxville takes the lead.
That was damn good, man. That was very, very impressive. That's got to be one of the better passes, quite honestly, I've seen in a very long time, honestly.
Thank you. Yeah. I knew my boy Balsamo. I saw him streaking, and normally I'm a pretty good playmaker. That's one of my strengths. So I definitely saw him going and kind of sauced right on his tape. I don't know how far it was, but yeah, it was definitely a pretty good pass, I'd say. And I think there was like 4 minutes left in the game, and that was to take the lead and the sweep. So it was definitely a big goal for us, doing a big win. And it was definitely a nice little play by us.
Yeah, so when I saw that, I'm like, holy shit, this is what we got to use for the clip. That was not only because you see the saucer pass all the time, especially when it's a 2-on-1 or an odd man rush in the offensive zone. You rarely see the stretch saucer pass. When you're going from your own zone of a defenseman up the ice to a forward in the neutral zone or at the opposing blue line, which is where Balsamo, it looked like he was by the time he retrieved that pass. So that's pretty special stuff, what you put together right there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I was wondering what assist it could have been. So yeah, that was a good weekend. That was a fun one too.
Yeah, no doubt. That definitely was a good one. NHL. We're going to talk a little NHL now. What did you think of the season? Let's start with obviously what just happened. The Vegas Golden Knights, Stanley Cup champions. Very impressive run by them, and showing what it takes to win a Stanley Cup in terms of, a lot of years ago it was, physicality and toughness and size people were starting to think maybe that's not what it takes to win a cup. It's more, you got to have all kinds of skill, speed, and be able to have game breakers offensively. And you still need that. But this is now a few years in a row now, going back to Tampa and going back to St. Louis in 2019. You need 4 good lines. You need 1 through 6 on the blue line being deep and balanced. Check for the Vegas Golden Knights. You do need some degree of size and physicality. It's not just all about, speed and ability to score goals, and they've got that in spades. Florida is actually the one team that, or Vegas was the one team Florida did not have an advantage as far as average height and average weight. It was the first time that Vegas, or an opponent of Florida, had the advantage over the Panthers in that department, and it showed in the Stanley Cup final. So the Vegas Golden Knights, again, full marks for their performance, and deserving Stanley Cup champions. Built well, coached well. Bruce Cassidy, an outstanding job. I know Bruins fans I'm still wondering, hey, we fired this guy, and a year later he's a Stanley Cup champion. But Vegas Golden Knights, man, they were the best team. There's not really much more to say other than that.
Yeah, they I think it was definitely well deserved by Vegas. I think they may not have been like the most entertaining to watch night in night out, but they just did their business and they took care of it every night. I mean, they just played the right structure the right way, and Bruce Cassidy, just teams are normally like that. And like I said, it for playoffs like that, it was yeah, they shut down. I mean, almost every team they played, they didn't give any team much. So, I mean, they're built right for the playoffs, and I'm excited. I'm happy for Vegas for them to win, and I was real excited to see Marchessault and how he played, because I try and model my game after him, and to see him playing a smaller guy like that and how he just had a really great playoff and was the heart and soul. He might not be the most skilled or most fast and all that, but you see that guy giving everything he has, and I think the Conn Smythe was well deserved to him. And yeah, I think they deserve it, and I was happy to see Vegas win it all.
Well, and as you know, I'm a full-time sports bettor and handicapper, and that's what the Ice Guys is, primarily betting show. And I'll say this right now, I deserve the Conn Smythe too, because I made a great bet at a great price before the Stanley Cup Final, taking Jonathan Marchessault at plus 900 to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. And do you know what the price was, Brady, for him to win it before Game 5? Minus 600. Look at the flip. Because of the series he had, because of what he did against Dallas, where he played well. And it really started from the last few games of the Edmonton series in the second round. That's when he was starting to find it offensively. And then he went on this insane point streak. I'm betting the point prop every single fucking game with Marchessault in the Dallas series and cashing in with it. And we went back to the well with it against Florida in the Stanley Cup Final. Plus, jumped in on plus 900 at that price for him to win the Conn Smythe. So after all of that, Brady, trust me, I'm a huge Jonathan Marchessault fan.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, he was just absolutely outstanding. And I think Jack Eichel really showed a lot as well for the Vegas Golden Knights. Not only coming back from the neck surgery, showing that he could, be healthy, but play at a high level. And there was this chat that was done, that was, discussion before the season when Bruce Cassidy was hired. He had a chat with Jack Eichel, says, "We believe you can be an elite number one center. We really believe that. But if you're going to make that happen, you can't just be facilitator and scorer on offense for us. You've got to be able to commit defensively. You've got to be able to be better in the face-off circle. You've got to be better, get used in the penalty kill. You've got to do a bunch of different things, to make yourself an elite center in the mold of a Patrice Bergeron, who has, pretty much been the gold standard as far as two-way complete center in the NHL for the last, 15 plus years. And Jack Eichel took not those comments as, wow, he doesn't like my game already. Then this guy just got hired here. He doesn't know me. He could have said, F this. I'm not changing. He didn't, though. He took those comments, and it was just advice. It wasn't really criticism. It was just, we think you could be even better, an elite. And the way you do that is you commit away from the puck and be that two-way center, play at both ends of the ice, a 200-foot game, which is a popular phrase to use these days. And Jack Eichel took that advice and he ran with it, and he worked at it, and he got better. And his play, not just, setting up Marchessault tons of times, and with all the assists he had, that was another great bet throughout the playoffs, was Jack Eichel assist props. I mean, those were just coming through left and right. But it was not just the assists. It was not just the goals. It was that he was all over the ice defensively whenever Vegas didn't have the puck. And that is what I noticed about Jack Eichel. That is why he took the comments of Bruce Cassidy last offseason and actually employed them and actually went out there on the ice and played the way Bruce was hoping he would. And that's why now, he did play like an elite center for the Vegas Golden Knights in their run to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I was happy for Jack to kind of, you saw some people, especially some Boston people, or like you see the Buffalo, kind of give him some shit. And I was happy to see him kind of have a great playoff and stay healthy even after that hit, and to still play like he did and the entire playoffs. But like I said, all the assists, he was two-way center, was great in the defensive zone. So I think he definitely could have been up there for the Conn Smythe, but it was good to see a guy like that, and for him to take those comments and to run with it and to follow. I mean, to see a guy that I played for the Junior Bruins in the same league as you, and to be like that, it's always great to see. And I was I was hoping he was going to have a good run, and I'm glad he finally got it and kind of silenced some of the doubters that he wasn't, that he couldn't play the two-way style. And I think he figured how he could play the playoff hockey, and he figured it out, I think.
No doubt, no doubt. And look, I'm a Buffalo Sabres fan, and I was growing up. Now, I've been in this betting career now for 10 years. So for me now, it's not the same fandom as it was before I started this. My fandom now is who am I betting on? That's who I'm cheering for, on a night-to-night basis. But I still want the Sabres deep down to win and be good. But even I will admit that there's actually a small part of me that says, you know what, good on Jack Eichel. Good for you. Even as frustrating and as disappointing as the run was for him with the Buffalo Sabres. And look, both sides share blame with that whole incident, with what went down, with the injuries, and Buffalo not letting him have the surgery, and Jack causing both sides had some blame. You've got your Sabres pom poms waving in the air if you're only blaming Jack Eichel for everything that went down. Both sides share blame. It's unfortunate it ended the way it did. But obviously he gets this opportunity in Vegas with a surefire contending team, and boy, makes the most of it. They end up winning the Stanley Cup. And Mark Stone, how about him? Multiple fucking back surgeries. I mean, one back surgery is going to put me out for 20 years probably. I'll probably be barely able to move. And here's this guy now. He's gone through multiple surgeries this season, or the last couple of years, and here he was, and getting better, getting stronger as the playoffs went on. Yeah, he was quiet at times in the first 3 rounds, but Stanley Cup final, man, Mark Stone was just absolutely spectacular for the Vegas Golden Knights. Happy to see him win his first Stanley Cup. This is a guy that just got to this point in the NHL just because he worked at it. He's not the fastest skater. He doesn't have the most lightning release as far as his shot goes. There's a lot of things that you could point at to Mark Stone and say, how did he make it this far? How did he stay in the NHL for this long? Several years now. But the thing is, he's smart. He's got great hockey intelligence. He knows he's a great defensive player as a forward. There is no question. He's been among the league leaders in takeaways as a forward for the last several years. And Mark Stone is just one of those guys that just got here because of surefire will, determination, and just working at his craft, getting better, working at the areas he feels he could get better in. And he's very, very smart. He's got the hockey IQ, as they say. That's why he's here. And now he's a Stanley Cup champion. This is a great story of a guy that, totally under the radar, wasn't talked about, coming into the NHL, and all of a sudden just makes a career for himself just because he never quit and worked at it relentlessly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm a big Mark Stone fan, and I think Vegas is kind of given with you see your captain like that coming back from the injuries and being the hardest working guy on the ice. And like I said, he's not the greatest skater. He's not all that, but I mean, will and hard work, it just goes to show. You see a guy like that doing it, you see your leadership and captain doing it, you're going to follow it. So I was very happy to see him, especially to get the hat trick like that. And so yeah, I'm very happy for that. And I love the story about Mark Stone finally being able to be the captain and raise it.
Yeah. And we have to acknowledge the Florida Panthers as well. An incredible run out of nowhere. Barely got into the playoffs. Maybe not even in the playoffs if the Pittsburgh Penguins don't, shit the bed big time and lose to the Chicago Blackhawks late in the regular season, which really put Florida in the catbird seat for that final playoff spot, which they ended up getting. That's how close they were to not even getting in the playoffs. And if they don't get in the playoffs, none of this shit ever happens. They don't pick off the one of the all-time great regular season teams, the Boston Bruins, in the first round. They don't beat Toronto in the second round. They don't beat Carolina in the third round, and they don't get to a Stanley Cup final if they don't even make the playoffs, which they were this close to missing the playoffs. But they got in. Alex Lyon caught fire for them down the stretch in goal when Bobrovsky still wasn't ready to play. Paul Maurice went into this epic tirade behind the bench in a regular season game against Toronto. And that's when it seemed like that team went on that run late in the regular season after that. And then they unbelievably come back from a 3-1 deficit against the Bruins, who were everybody's pick to at least get to the Stanley Cup final, if not win it, with just the incredible regular season they had. And then they beat Toronto and they beat Carolina. And to me, it was a combination of things against Vegas. Like I said, Vegas was the biggest team they've played in these playoffs, the deepest team they've played in these playoffs. Florida clearly was suffering significant attrition from an injury standpoint throughout this team once we got to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, it was fucking unbelievable what we were hearing after the series ended against Vegas from Florida in terms of injuries. Brandon Montour is going to be out for 6 months because of all the injuries he played through in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Matthew Tkachuk playing through in Game 4 at least, a broken sternum and a fractured sternum is incredible to me. Paul Maurice said it. He couldn't even put his damn equipment on his own. He had to have a teammate dress him. Well, it's like a mom dressing their 2-year-old kid. That's exactly what they were doing with Matthew Tkachuk. They had a teammate putting his gear on for him because he was in so much pain. And that's how far he was willing to go. That is how badly he wanted to play Game 4. Unbelievable shit. And then, of course, Aaron Ekblad. I mean, Mike Brady, is there ever going to be a time you're playing through a torn oblique, 2 dislocated shoulders, and a broken foot? Are you going to still be?
Yeah, I don't know. I got to give them there. That was pretty remarkable. You could tell watching that everything they had, they battled through the first 3 rounds, like with the injuries, and you just tell like in the final they were just gassed and they didn't have anything left in the tank, and you could tell just like the injury, like Tkachuk battling through, Ekblad battling through. Like you got to give those guys props even getting out there and battling. But yeah, I mean that's just pretty remarkable to try and get through that stuff, and just goes to show how much like the boys care about it and want to win. You obviously know it must have been killing Tkachuk to not be out there, but
hell yeah,
like I mean, I was reading things that Brady, his brother, would have him to get him out of bed just to try and play, like just to get him out and like get him dressed and all that. It was just pretty remarkable. Some things you go through while the Stanley Cup playoffs, stuff like that.
And probably because he played at least one game through that, and he was able to gut it through it. It's probably got to the point where the pain, if it was already bad going into Game 4, you play a Stanley Cup final game with a broken sternum. I can only imagine the pain after Game 4. And that's when it got to the point where it's just too much now. I mean, and as badly as he wanted to play in Game 5, I'm sure in Vegas, it got to the point where, man, just be smart. Don't sacrifice maybe the next, several years of your career for one game because it's not worth the risk. And that's when they decide, we got to shut him down. And he can't, as badly as I think if it was up to Matthew Tkachuk, he probably still would have played again, quite honestly. But they figured that's enough now. I mean, it's incredible the warrior-like mentality you've got, but we just can't risk it at this point, and that's why he probably didn't play Game 5, Brady.
Yeah, 100%. He definitely wanted to be out there with his guys battling, but I mean, I think there just comes a point in time where you can't cut it out, and you got to be smart and use your head a little bit. And yeah, I think that's what happened for them for 100%.
Yeah, no question. Which team, by the way, are you a fan of in the NHL? Which was your favorite team?
I'm technically a Bruins fan.
Oh boy.
I'll
give you a chance to talk about them. What happened here? I mean, an all-time great regular season, and then 3-1 up on Florida, and somehow lose that series. I'm still, believe it or not, months later, in a little bit of shock that happened.
Yeah, I mean, going in when I saw the Panthers, I was actually scared going into round 1 as a Bruins fan when we got Panthers, because they were hot coming in, and they're streaky, and it was just a team I thought you don't want to play, and you never want to play a team that's buzzing coming into playoffs. You never know. And the thing is, I mean, the Bruins didn't really face any adversity during the regular season. Everything kind of got handed to them. They're just winning. And I think once they face a little adversity round 1, then kind of shit the bed a bit. So, I mean, you can't really expect to have a great, like, the best season like that and to just cakewalk right to the Stanley Cup either. So, I mean, I think it was a good little wake-up call for him. And, I mean, to blow 3-1, especially at home in Boston for a Game 7, I don't know if you've ever been to Boston, but it's pretty rowdy there, and it's a lot of fun. So, definitely Game 7 was a heartbreaker to lose at home like that. I know for an entire city in New England, but yeah, I mean, I kind of saw it coming. Like, I think it was game whatever when they were up 3-1 and Marchand had that breakaway time clicking. That goes in, then series is over. Bobrovsky makes a big save, and they just gained the momentum and went off from it and won 3 straight from that, I think. So, yeah, it was definitely a little heartbreaking, but hats off to the Panthers. They played the right way, and they got rewarded for it.
But in all honesty, I will say this. Was any fan at that moment, like when Marchand, and because everybody said it after the fact, right? After this series that, what if Marchand had scored that goal right at the end of the third period of game 5, and that would have won the game and they win the series in 5. And everyone's saying now, after they lost the series in 7, that was the turning point. Who the fuck at that moment in time, even after Marchand got stopped by Bobrovsky there in game 5, who thought that, oh man, at that moment going into game 5 in overtime, oh man, Marchand missed a chance to end this game. What if we lose this game? We could lose the series. I don't think anybody thought that. I think everybody was still feeling fully confident Boston was going to either win game 6 or at the very least a game 7 back home. So I'm not saying it's a wrong thought, but it's just funny because everybody's got that same thought that you just said. Even my guy, Jimmy Murphy, who's been on the show, he's with us throughout the season every week. He's longtime Boston Bruins reporter, Jimmy Murphy. And he said the same damn thing. What if Marchand had scored there? And we're saying that after the series, but in that moment, after he's stopped there on that breakaway, Marchand in game 5, nobody at that moment is thinking, oh, geez, Bruins are going to lose this series now.
No, not at all. I mean, especially with knowing you have overtime at home and overtime or like game 7 at home. Like you should be able to take care of business in at least one of those, in my opinion. And you don't take care of business at home and you lose in overtime, and then you go on the road and you try and steal one, and you play. I don't think like you're thinking, oh well, he didn't score, we're done. But you got to take care of overtime at home, or elite at worst case game 7. So I mean, I think it was kind of a choke job by them, and I mean, hats off to the Panthers. They deserve it.
Jimmy called it, and he covers the team. He's not scared to say it. He did. He said, "Joke job, bad job, terrible."
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't be able to be up 3-1 and lose 3 in a row, especially with 2 at home. Is just something that in the playoffs it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, just a tough way to end the season, and now there's a lot of questions. What's this team going to look like? We still don't have clarity on what the hell's going to happen with Patrice Bergeron yet, as of right now. And he did say he was going to take time. He wasn't lying. He is definitely taking time to make sure that whatever decision he makes to come back to the Bruins or retire is the right one. He feels at peace with it. And he should. He has the right to, because this is probably one of the toughest decisions you'll make. Come back or actually call it an end to what's been an absolutely brilliant Hall of Fame career for Patrice Bergeron. So he's owed that opportunity to take the time he needs to make the decision that he's most comfortable with. I'm sure it took the Bruins a lot of time to, reflect and gather their bearings and, process what happened against the Florida Panthers. But clearly, David Pastrnak was eventually able to move on because a certain person was on the golf course with David Pastrnak recently. This guy right here I'm talking about, Brady Fleurent. Talk about that. Shooting it up on the links with Pasta.
Yeah, it was I don't know. It was just like a once in a moment type of thing. So Maine is known as like vacation land, and especially in the summer, a great place for vacation and go visit and all that. So I was back home. I had just gotten home from my season, and I was just starting back work at the golf course, and I was working at the range, and I was just about to close, and I saw this black and yellow Lamborghini pull in with Massachusetts plate. And I'm like, I think I'd seen that before, but and he walked up and it ended up being Pastrnak, and he was just hitting some balls at work, and he was on vacation with his fiance, just trying to get away a little bit and enjoy the Kennebunkport, the foods, the scenery, and all that. And I just started talking to him, kind of shooting the shit with them, and then we talked to like my bosses. We had tea time the next morning, and we were asked if he wanted to join in, if he wanted to play some golf when he was around. And I think he talked to fiance, and she kind of was like, yeah, like, so he ends up just meeting him at the course and hitting balls, and then we end up playing around together the next day while he was on vacation. So it was just, we just talked about how I played for Adirondack and all that. So it was kind of, we didn't really talk hockey too much. We were more like, all right, it's the off season. Kind of got away from the hocky a bit, but
you would talk to hockey. You wanted to talk about your hockey, not
yeah. It was definitely pretty. Yeah, he definitely didn't want to talk about like anything in the playoffs and stuff. But I mean, after a long season like that, mentally, physically, I totally knew where he was coming from, because I felt the same way. Just from like, I didn't really want to talk hockey. Like, we just kind of both like enjoyed being on the golf course and his presence and being a superstar like that, just being around him and kind of it was really cool.
So this wasn't prearranged. This was just a fucking chance encounter. Yeah.
Yeah, he walked up in my work and I knew it was him and we kind of just started talking and he just happened to be on vacation for a few days and kind of like a postseason getaway. And I mean, Maine's a great spot for it. And I just happened to be at work that night and happened to notice him and talk to him. So it was kind of funny how it all worked out. And then he asked me about playing golf, and then we ended up having a tea time. So we got him in with us. So it was just kind of a cool, surreal moment, and kind of be able to say you got to play golf with a NHL superstar like that is
there you go.
Pretty cool.
Now he'd probably in various hockey type of skills events, he'd probably beat you. Did he beat you on the? I'd assume so.
I don't know if he'll see it, and hopefully he doesn't. But his golf game is actually needs some work. I carried us in our matchup.
Did he do one of those the sandbagger things? It was spitting chicklets.
So if you ever watch,
I guess you don't have to be fucking good to do that. Beyond that,
you can see his golf game through there. He was definitely he was a good sport about it because it was me and him. We had a matchup. It was me and him as a team versus two other guys. So we were teamed up, and he, for the most of the round, he was trying to be my caddy and tell me what to hit. So it was a good time. But his golf game, he's definitely trying to work on it though. He was at the range, so he's slowly getting better.
That's plus he's going to play a shit ton of golf, I'm sure, when he retires from hockey. So by the time he's like my age or in his 40s, he's probably going to be actually a pretty good golfer, or at least a solid golfer, I would think.
Yeah, and I don't think he was saying Czech. There's not golf isn't really much of a big thing in Czech, so he never really played it growing up or anything until recently. So I think he's just starting to get into golf and really enjoying it. So I think he'll definitely be playing more like once he's retired and off season and all that.
Yeah, no doubt. And so you work at a golf course, right?
Yep. I work at.
You must be a golf fan. You love golf, right?
Yeah, I'm a big golf guy. I love to golf.
There you go. It's funny because guess what's on the television screen right in front of me as we're recording this Patreon exclusive, the U.S. Open.
Exactly what I got going right now.
LA Country Club, and checking and I love golf. We got a shit ton of bets, too many to keep track of.
I got plenty of bets too.
Yeah, no doubt. We've got I took Wyndham Clark to win this thing, and at 70-1 odds it was, and I just like the form of that guy. The last several months, and he's had a good first round. Dustin Johnson is in the mix again. He's someone that you can tell right away if DJ is going to be a factor, because then there's those tournaments where Dustin Johnson is just he's out of it and doesn't even make the cut in certain situations. But then you see him contending here in first round. It's like, this is going to be the DJ that's going to be tough to beat this weekend. He's there. How about Tricky Ricky Fowler? Holy shit! Where did that come from yesterday?
I love to see
62 in the first round. 8 under. I'd love to see it too. We know he's been one of those guys that people pegged to win a major championship. 5-10 years ago, people said, "Oh, for sure, Ricky Fowler's going to win one." It's not a question of if; it's going to be when. And sure enough, his form kind of deteriorated a little bit the last couple of years. So I'm happy to see him at least in the conversation again. Yeah,
I agree. I love to see like a guy that has lost his form, ends up missing a lot of cuts, and to get it back and works hard and gets his game back and to be in contention. I love to see it. I'm rooting for him 100%.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the golf world is. There's no doubt, and it would be pretty cool if on Sunday at the U.S. Open, the final round in L.A., which is of course he's a California kid, Ricky Fowler. He's in the final pairing or something with that Ricky Sunday Orange on, and that would be something to see. And I'm sure everyone would be that would certainly boost the NBC television numbers, I think, if we get maybe a Ricky Fowler in the mix potentially in the final round. But the U.S. Open, the third major, I'm definitely all over that this weekend, watching it quite a bit. And not only Sandra Schauffele's in the mix, Rory had a great first round as well. And here's kind of like Ricky Fowler a little bit, in that his form's not been at his best in the last couple of years. Rory obviously has won a few majors already, but it feels like the last major he won was eons ago. So with the fact that he's always been a fan favorite, with the fact that, he hasn't won in a very long time. Yeah, I think cheering for Rory Brady's going to be kind of like cheering for a guy that's never won a major before, simply because it's been a while for Rory.
Yeah, I like Rory too. I being a smaller guy too, and see how I think we're like the same size, and see how far and high he hits it. It's just crazy to me. So I love watching Rory and seeing his mechanics and all that. So I'm definitely rooting. I have a rooting for him. I placed a bet on him this morning, so I'm hoping he has a good round and hopefully can keep playing well.
Yeah, and a guy to watch out for too is someone that, look, he got ridiculed last year, 2 years ago. You're putting on all this weight. You just want to try to bomb the ball off the tee. You just want your tee ball to be, longer than anyone else's, and have these 340, 350 yard tee shots. And yet the rest of your game is complete horse shit. And I'm talking about Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah.
And he's someone that, look, that's what it was for a while. I'm not bullshitting. That's the way he was playing for a while. He could bomb it off the tee, and even the odd time it would go wayward. And then the rest of his game, he couldn't. He had no approach game of any quality. His putter wasn't consistent one week to the next. Bryson DeChambeau. But now all of a sudden, you see this year, 2023, he's actually had a nice year. And I think he's gotten serious. I think he's heard the criticism. I think he finally understands. Whoa, I've got to really work at this shit to get better, to be a more complete golfer. And you're seeing him now. His approach game's improving a little bit. His putting's been better here the last few weeks. He was in contention at the PGA Championship. You're starting to see Bryson DeChambeau turn it around in terms of his form. And he had a good first round as well in the U.S. Open yesterday. So, like I say, all the talent is there. But and certainly he's got a gift in terms of his tee shot. Like the ability to drive it that far, it's sick. It's unreal. But you got to work you got to be a complete, like in hockey. It's nice to score, but you'd like to be a complete player. It's nice to be able to, be a power play guy, but you'd like to be a complete player. Same thing with Bryson. Yeah, you can drive the ball a fuck ton off the tee, but you want to be a complete golfer too. And he looks like finally he's trying to be that.
Yeah, my brother is like that too. He's kind of like a Bryson. He can hammer it past, but his short game and his approach game isn't as strong as mine. I'm like, I'd rather be the complete player than that. But I loved about Bright, like during that whole transition stuff, I wasn't that big of a fan of him. But like just seeing his interviews this week, he has a big smile on his face and actually like I think enjoying himself. So I think that's a big reason why he's playing well like this week too is he's happy and he big smile on his face.
He always looked like a miserable fuck every time.
Yeah, exactly.
Interviewed for the longest time. Yeah.
Yep, and I agree. Hopefully, his attitude changed like that too. And if you're happy, I think he's going to play well. And I mean, he could be in contention 100%.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm excited. The second round, as of this recording, is taking place right now. So, U.S. Open, excited to. I'm glad we could talk. I don't get to talk a lot of golf on YouTube. It's not a sport it's a sport I follow, but it's not a sport I'm doing shows for. It's mostly hockey, football, basketball, and a little baseball. So to be able to talk golf is nice because I love it. I just don't get to talk about it very often. So that's been good. Here with our guest, Brady Fleurent. Brady, we'll wrap it up in just a couple of minutes. Just some things in the NHL that you're looking forward to next season. Just storylines, teams that you think might improve next year, teams you think might take a step back. Just what is piquing your interest right now going into next NHL season?
I would like to see how the Bruins react to the whole great regular season and kind of how playoffs ended. We'll be interested to see how they start out and how their regular season goes. I think their salary cap they got to make some moves. So I'm interested to see that. I'm interested. Seattle has my interest. I liked watching them in the playoffs. I'm hoping that's a team that can keep taking that step forward and hopefully can be kind of like what Vegas did this year, and hopefully they can go on a run because I enjoyed watching them in the playoffs this year. And then I don't know. I want to see how the Ducks will do. I'm guessing they're going
to be oozing with offensive talent.
Yeah,
there's no denying that. And you've already got Terry, you've already got Zegras, you've already got McTavish. You're going to have Jamie Drysdale back who can drive the offense from the back end again next year, and then you're going to add an Adam Fantilli now with that second pick. Yep.
I'm excited to see him too. And with that team, I think maybe not next year, they might not put the pieces together, but I think with all that young talent, for sure, I think it's coming soon. So, those are pretty much my ones I have excited for next year. Just kind of going to see how it goes. I want to see how Tampa reacts to what I think round one exit too. See if they still have another run and with those guys or not. And yeah, I mean, the team I had that piqued my interest this year was I had Carolina going to the Cup. So I would love to see them.
And then they ran into that friggin' red hot juggernaut all of a sudden out of nowhere that is Florida. Yep.
Yeah, and they had the injuries happen and all that. So they're definitely a team I like to keep my eye on. I think another one is going to be the Devils. Yeah, they're going to be with Hughes. Both Hughes coming in now. I think
they should be a factor and in the mix every year now for at least the next several. Yeah,
I agree.
Yep.
I think that's going to be a sleeper team to keep an eye out next year. I think they definitely can win that division, maybe even the East. So I'm going to keep an eye out for them 100%.
Just got to shore up the goaltending because I don't know if Blackwood, Vanacek, and that group, and Schmid's still an unknown. Hasn't played a ton of games, so that's going to be interesting to see if what the goaltending can hold up. It's funny you mentioned Seattle, man, because you're definitely everybody I've talked to about Seattle, and I mentioned it on the show already, our finale show. I can't believe they're plus 3,500 to win the Stanley Cup. That they're that low down the board. 35-1 to win the Stanley Cup. It's just incredible. And you've got the Pittsburgh Penguins didn't even make the playoffs. Winnipeg Jets didn't even make they made the playoffs, but they're going to take a huge step back this year, Winnipeg, with everybody wanting out of there. You got teams like that are ahead of Seattle in the NHL Stanley Cup Futures Board next year. I couldn't believe it. A team that got to the second round and lost in 7 games to the Dallas Stars in the second round. So, yeah, to me, I had to take that already. And I don't normally do that. Before even free agency and all the offseason activity takes place, I'm betting a futures bet for next year already, but I had to take that price. I said, I don't even care what they do or don't do in the offseason. That's ridiculous. 35-1 for Seattle, team that improved so much, got to the second round. They were underpriced to me.
Yep, I agree. Didn't expect that one, but yeah, I think they can hopefully take that step forward. I think that's definitely a good bet right there.
Yeah, definitely. And you're not you're not the first one to say Seattle. And I've talked to so many people that couldn't believe it with where Seattle was priced, and people thinking Seattle can build on what they did last year, no question. And it wouldn't surprise me to see them do that, no doubt. Great stuff, Brady. Thank you for doing this. It was awesome. I think there was one thing I wanted to. Oh yeah, when you're doing the East Coast League, obviously when the season's going on, and of course you played at Knoxville. How much hockey do you get to watch? NHL, that is, during the season when you're playing.
I get to watch a good amount during the week. It's pretty chill because it's mostly just practices and like 10 to 11 ish, like that. So after noon, you pretty much have the entire day and night to do whatever you want. So I get to watch a lot of NHL during the week. Obviously, during the weekends when you're playing like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's definitely pretty tough because a lot of travel and stuff. But during the week, I'm definitely watching a lot of hockey, and I keep up with NHL a good amount.
There you go. Great stuff. Awesome having you on the show. It was a great interview. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had fun. Certainly, I'm an energetic person, so I try to bring life and energy to the show, and hope everyone enjoyed it. Another great Ice Guys Patreon exclusive. I'll just plug your Twitter account before we say goodbye.
All right. It's Fleurent94, Fleurent.
Yeah, and it's Fleurent. This guy is from Maine, United States. He's not from Quebec, Canada. It's not Brady Fleurent. You know, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good stuff. Brady, awesome. And we wish you well, health, happiness, great success as well with your hockey endeavors moving forward. Hopefully back with Adirondack, with the Thunder next year in the ECHL. But certainly wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
Absolutely. No, we appreciate it. And thanks to everyone tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. Thanks to our special guest, Brady Fleurent, for joining us on this edition of the Ice Guys Patreon exclusive. I'm Ian Cameron. Thank you to everybody for watching. This has been another Ice Guys Patreon exclusive. We'll talk to you again soon.